Cruise news time. Well, in a surprising turn of events, another cruise line is now saying that they may charge extra money for extra lobsters on lobster night in the MDR. Shocker. Also, there's a cruise port that's been out of business for 2.5 years that's finally coming back, an infamous cruise port. And while the new rankings are out, the new rankings of which cruise line is the best cruise line for the money, who do you think took the top spot? I doubt you could guess it. Cruise news. Let's talk about it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Lido, Loca. I'm your host, Tony, here with the latest cruise news and views for your face for Tuesday, November the 15th, 2022. Are you ready? Let's do it. Cruise news story number one, a continuation of a cruise news story from yesterday. I told you yesterday that Norwegian Cruise Line Holdings had been given a favorable ranking by a financial analyst over there at UBS, a financial firm there on Wall Street. Well, there's more to the story. Royal Caribbean and Carnival also got favorable ratings from that analyst and new target prices, which is good. Good for investors. Carnival Corporation now has a target valuation of $15 per share, up from $8 per share, and the Royal Caribbean Group now targeted at $76 per share, up from $56 per share. Now, these are just targets. These are numbers where these analysts see these cruise stocks going to or could go to. There's no guarantee in any of it. But again, for people who are holding stock in those companies, well, that's just good news. That's good news all the way around. It's exciting times. I wanted to make sure I swung back around and covered the changes in the valuation of both Carnival Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean Group. How about that? All right, I got to tell you about the next cruise line that's talking about possibly charging extra for extra lobsters on lobster night in the main dining room. But let's pay some bills real quick. Today's show is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare, an online learning community with thousands of classes and members from over 150 countries across the globe coming together to find inspiration and to take that next step on their creative learning journey. Why Skillshare and why right now? It's pretty simple. We are approaching the end of 2022, and while there's no better time to invest in yourself, invest in learning that creative skill you've always wanted to try, or invest in learning a new skill that you can level up your 2023 with. Me personally, I've made the decision to go back and pursue my doctorate degree in 2023, and while there's always something that I can bone up on, and I thought it'd be great right now at this point in time to bone up on my ability to bone up, I guess. I'm working through this interesting class right now called High Intensity Learning from Monique Madan, and it's a nice reminder that when it comes to formal education, well, sometimes you got to step up your game. That's what I'm doing. It's that time of year where we buy gifts for others, and it's okay to get something for yourself, something that will transcend just the season and move you on into 2023. You got to get yourself one of these free trials of Skillshare. What? That's right. The first 1,000 people to use the link in the description will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Thank you so much, Skillshare, for sponsoring today's episode. Okay, here we go. Early this morning, while I still had eye boogers, a friend of mine, Crazy Jay, who is Royal Caribbean aficionado. He's way up there in the loyalty. I think he's probably at the highest loyalty level. He is Mr. Royal Caribbean to me, beyond Royal Caribbean blog. He sent me an article from Royal Caribbean blog asking me if I knew what was going down on the Symphony of the Seas. And well, I did not. Apparently in the main dining room on the Symphony of the Seas, they have rolled out a modified menu with less menu choices and some surcharges for the food on that menu. And they've done it in the name of speeding up the dinner process. They've removed the classic selections and they're limiting selections to only 4 per category per night. And also in that menu, there is a notice that on the lobster night, that now they're going to be serving a main lobster, which could be a bigger lobster, but you only get one of them for your included cruise fare. If you want an extra lobster, it's going to cost you $15.99. Oh no, not $15.99. I read it wrong. It's $16.99 plus an 18% gratuity. you got a tip for the second lobster. How about that? Now, Matt over at the Royal Caribbean blog, he did compile this all into one blog post, information from a lot of different sources, and then he reached out to his sources at Royal Caribbean, and they came back with that message that, yes, they're doing this to speed up the dinner process, the main dining room process. We've talked about that before. What is too long at the main dining room? Is 2 hours too long for main dining room? Should it be 90 minutes? Should it be an hour? Well, Royal Caribbean is throwing it at their customers with this new menu to find out whether they're satisfied or not with this additional lobster surcharge, whether they're satisfied or not with the limited menu choices, and to see whether or not this whole thing speeds up the main dining room process. Tongue-in-cheek, I said in the introduction that this is a surprising turn of events. Of course, it's not. We talked about it last week, how Carnival is making some changes to their main dining room policies, charging an additional $5 for entrees past 2 entrees, all in the name of food waste. It's interesting. I think many of us still believe that a lot of this are levers that cruise lines can pull for cost savings and to increase profitability. But of course, it would be odd for them to come straight out and say we're just, reducing things that we used to do included to save some money. Do we have thoughts on this? Leave a comment below. Cruise news story number 2. There's a cruise port that has been shut down for 2.5 years. An infamous cruise port now getting ready to return to service. We're talking about the cruise ports in Japan, and we're talking specifically about the cruise port of Yokohama. The cruise port there in Yokohama was at the epicenter of the COVID outbreak in March of 2020. It's hard to erase the mental images of the Diamond Princess docked there in Yokohama. 3,711 crew and passengers quarantined on board as health officials tried to figure out what to do with this new virus. It's been documented well in a couple documentaries. Nobody knew what they were doing, and you just had passengers stuck on that cruise ship, crew members stuck on that cruise ship, getting sick. In the 2 weeks of that quarantine, more than 700 passengers infected. 13 people died. And so you can understand some hesitancy from Japan about reopening to cruising. Not surprisingly, there will be a heavy requirement for vaccines for testing when cruising returns to Japan. And I say not surprising because that's what we've seen in other regions as cruising has returned. Very restrictive, very protocol forward, a very cautious watch and see what happens. But even with all the restrictions, I am excited. Japan was probably one of the most magical places I've ever visited in my life. It's a place that I would like to return to, and so I am excited that it will now be open back up to cruisers to go and experience Japan. The slow road to getting back to normal begins now as soon as next month for cruising in Japan. And of course, we continue to watch what's going on with cruising in Australia. The news globally and specifically Australia has been abuzz with an outbreak that has occurred on the Majestic Princess. Around 800 testing positive for the virus. Allowed to disembark. Passengers were said to have mild symptoms or to be asymptomatic. Princess and local health officials following the procedures and the health protocols they put in place to disembark everybody. But still, it's definitely a big outbreak that's making headlines. But part and parcel really for these cruise restarts. We saw that here in the U.S. A very keen eye on any case count numbers. And we will see that, of course, as we continue in Australia. And then any other region that opens up, I would expect there will be a close eye on the counts there in Japan. Let me kick it to you. Have you ever been to Japan, or what's the most exotic place you've ever cruised to? Leave a comment below. Now, our next cruise news story deals with the U.S. News 2023 Cruise Rankings. This is an annual ranking system across a bunch of categories in the cruise space. And today specifically, I want to talk to you about the best cruise line for the money and the best cruise line for families. Before I reveal the number ones in those rankings, well, let me quickly invite you to subscribe. If you like staying up to date with everything that's going on in cruising, please consider subscribing with the notification bell on. That way you don't miss out on any of these episodes. Shout out to the notification squad. I love you guys. Thank you for being with the show. As soon as it releases, it amazes me to see those same names every day. Shout out to the notification squad. All right, U.S. News 2023 cruise rankings. They have named the best cruise line for the money. Who did you think it is? Do you think it's Carnival? No, you would be wrong. Do you think it's Royal Caribbean? Well, no, you would be wrong. Let me give you the rankings. Coming in at number 5, Princess Cruises. Number 4, MSC Cruises. Number 3, Celebrity Cruises. Number 2, Carnival Cruise Line. And the number 1 cruise line, the best cruise line for the money, Virgin Voyages? Virgin Voyages? Wow, I would not have expected that, but you do get a lot for your money on Virgin Voyages. You get included Wi-Fi, you get included gratuities, all the food there. Yeah. How about that? Best cruise line for the money, Virgin Voyages, the brand new cruise company, eking out the top spot, taking it away from Carnival Cruise Line. And while we're here, let's go ahead and talk about the best cruise line for families. Number 5 on that list, MSC Cruises. Number 4, Norwegian Cruise Line. Number 3, Carnival Cruise Line. Number 2, Royal Caribbean International. And number 1, well, it's probably not that big of a surprise, Disney Cruise Line. DCL, the number 1 cruise line for families. Do you agree with these rankings from US News? Which cruise line do you think's the best family cruise line or the best cruise line for the money? Leave a comment below. And did you know when you take your kids on vacation, well, they have to pay gratuities too? I had a little debate in my mind and in this video about that. Make sure you check out this video next. This is Tony for Lido Loca, and until the next time, we'll see you on the Lido.